Looking for some games that play with 6 people and are not party games? You came to the right place. Let's check it out. Hey y'all, welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers, and today we are going to be going through our favorite 6-player games. These are games that play with 6 people but are not party games. I think that's one of the things that's like a lot of people try to shy away from the party games. I like party games. I think some of these may even be party adjacent because they're not really necessarily board games, but I did my best not to include too many of those. But some of these games are just so good that even with 6 players, they're a little bit more on the lighter end and just a good way to end the night maybe. But these are all great 6-player games. These are like my favorites, so let's get into the list. Now, honorable mention, and take this with a grain of salt, but I can go with either of these over each other, but my honorable mention is Dixit, and I really love Dixit. Dixit's a fantastic game. It barely missed out on the list over the next game, my number 10, but I really like Dixit, and I think that it's worth mentioning here on the channel that Dixit's an amazing game. If you've never played it, it is a game where everybody has these cards with a bunch of, abstract artwork, I guess you should say. Is it abstract? I guess, I don't know. So somebody comes up with a keyword, and then you have to play a card that matches up with the word that was said, and then you're trying to figure out the person who said the word. You're trying to figure out which card is theirs. And so you take all the cards, put them into a pile, shuffle them up, and spread them out, and then we have to try to figure out who's the right person. If we all get it right, we all score points, and that person doesn't. If everybody does get it right, then that person gave a bad clue, and they don't get any points, and everybody else gets points. But if maybe 1 or 2 don't get it right, then the person who played the card or said the word is the one who gets the points. So it's pretty awesome. It's a great game. I really like it. You guys should definitely try Dixit, and they have a Disney edition, which is amazing. The artwork is spectacular in that game. Number 10, let's go to number 10. That is Jamaica. Jamaica is such an amazing game. If you've never played it, it is just a dice rolling game, and you have cards in your hand. Everybody has the same cards that do the same things. Each card has 2 icons on it, and so it's either going to have a green or a red arrow. If it's a green arrow, you go forward that many spaces. If it's a red arrow, you go back that many spaces. Or if you use it to gain resources, you'll gain that many resources, like if it has like a coin. And so what it'll do is somebody will roll the dice, and they put them on the board, and there's a left dice and a right dice, and then that corresponds to the cards that have the symbols on the left and the right, and everybody plays one. And it's a racing game where you're racing a pirate ship around Jamaica, and you're just collecting gold. Whoever has the most gold at the end of the game wins. And so, yeah, it's pretty interesting because you can be the first person to cross the finish line and still end up losing because of not having enough gold. So you want to make sure that throughout the game you're gathering enough gold and things like that, because it's super helpful. But if you get into combat, somebody beats you in combat, they can end up taking a lot of your gold. But it's just a really good game. If you've never played Jamaica, got to get that game played. It's super fun. My number 9 is Things and Rings. Things and Rings is great, man. And I know it's kind of like, this is, I guess, one of the party games on my list. But if you've never played Things and Rings, and there's a lot of games that play really well, but this is like, they cap at 6, okay? There are games that play well with 6 players, like Flip 7, for example, but Flip 7 can play with more. And that's going to be on a separate list that I'm going to do. So don't fret if your game didn't make it on this list and you're like, this game plays with 6. It's like that game also plays with 8. So maybe that's the reason why it's not on the list. So just keep that in mind. But Things and Rings is great. Like, even though it is a party game, it's just so much fun. It's such a puzzly, thinky game where you're trying to figure out, and I know for some people it's hit and miss, but for me and my group, we love it. Like, I have never had a bad play of this game. Most people get it like after the first round of play, which goes by super fast. These games are quick. You can get a couple of games played, and then you can change who is the person who's in charge of the rules. So basic gist of the game, you make a little Venn diagram with these rings, and then there's a person who gets a rule card for every single ring, and there's a bunch of different rules, so it has a lot of variability in the gameplay. But the person looks at the rules and then puts some starter cards into the rings, and these cards just have like random things on it, like a potato or a dragon or a highway or the planet Earth, just random stuff. And you put things in the rings, and that they have to do it in a way where it obeys the rules. Now, the only person who knows the rules, though, is the rule person, and they're kind of sitting out of the game and being the one who determines which cards go into what rings. So you'll place a card into a ring, and then they'll take that card out and go, no, it doesn't go in this ring, it goes in that ring. Or they might say this goes in none of the rings. But you're trying to figure out by seeing which cards get played where, what the rules for the rings are. The yellow ring is about the word itself on the card. Each card has a picture and a word, and the yellow ring is about what the word, about just the word. It's just kind of like the spelling. Does it have 2 consonants or something like that? It'll be something adjacent like that. The red ring is the context ring. No, the red ring is it context? I always forget. Yeah, I think it's context. It describes what the item is kind of used for in society. And then the blue ring talks about the actual object on the card itself. So I always think of the red ring of how you use the item, or what its use is for, like what it does. And then the blue ring is going to be like what it is. You know, it talks about, oh yeah, things made of wood or something like that. And so like people are just placing things in rings, and it's really fun. But I think I talked about it way too long, so I'm just going to move on. Things in rings, amazing. It's my number 9. My number 8 is Love Letter, and they have I think the newest version. They've had like a bunch of versions of this come out. Marvel, they have like a Star Wars one. They have the old school Batman one, which is probably one of the best versions of Love Letter that I have. I just love the theming on it. It's super cool. But most recently they came out with a Bridgerton version, so that's the one that I'll picture over here. But the Bridgerton version is just all the cards just have artwork from the Bridgerton show. You don't have to get this version. You could just get regular Love Letter, but if you like Bridgerton, this is funny because it actually kind of fits with the game, and it has a cool card, the Queen Charlotte card. But basically this is such an easy game. This is kind of party adjacent, I guess. It's like a card game. It's not really a board game, but I still consider it a board game. But anyways, everybody gets a card, and then on your turn you draw a second card, and then you have to play one of your 2 cards face up in front of you, and that card, it has an ability on it. You act its ability out, and then it's the next player's turn. And that's literally how easy this game is. But the hard part, and it's not even that hard, but it's like it's in a deduction game where you're trying to figure out who has like the princess card to knock them out of the game. And it just says player elimination, so you're just playing cards that can eliminate people. But most of it requires you to kind of do something first. Like I have to guess what you are exactly. And that always kind of really, really fun when you get to do that on like turn 1 and get somebody out of the round. But everybody just plays cards until you run out of cards and there's no more cards left in the deck. And then whoever has the highest numbered card, then the cards are numbered 0 to 9. Whoever has the highest numbered card wins the game. And so this one has, like I said, the added mechanic of the Queen Charlotte, which is kind of fun. Queen Charlotte, just in case you're wondering what it does, she does the whole like lady whistle down. I'm going to give you to the count of 10, basically. And it's like 1. You start with the number 1, I believe. And if everybody who has a 1 card has to raise their hand, and whoever has a 1, when you say 1, is knocked out of the game all at the same time, which is insane. And then if nobody has a 1, then you go 2, and if nobody has a 2, you go 3, and you just keep counting up until the next card is reached, and then whoever has that card, it gets knocked out, which is super, super funny. And there's a lot of 1s in the game, so you can really knock a lot of people out at 1. So yeah, that's the difference, but it's a really fun game. I love Letter. Love Letter. Love Letter. Yeah. Number 7, Libertalia, Wings of Galecrest. Libertalia was a game that I think I hated when I first started playing it. Like I was like maybe 5 minutes into the game, and I was like, everything was going against me, and I hated it. It was so awful. I felt so powerless in that moment. I was like, I don't understand how this game works with the cards and the stuff like that. And then after a few turns, it started to make sense to me. And then I was like, wow, this is solid. I actually really like this game. And it plays with 6 people, but it was so much fun. So everybody basically gets like a hand of cards, which I think everybody's hand of cards is the same. And then there's other pirates that you can get throughout the game that you can add to your deck. But you're playing these cards, and every time you play a card, it's gonna, man, I'm struggling to remember exactly how it worked, but I think it's like every time you played a card, it has like an ability on it. But then like you're supposed to like, the person who played like the highest card or something like that round is going to get something, or they're going to go first when it comes to activating your abilities. So your ability that you played, if it doesn't, like some of those abilities, it's like, man, I hope that I'm first, because if I'm first, this is going to be awesome. But if I'm not, and then you find out that you're not, then it's like, oh, this didn't work out the way that I hoped it would. But all the cards kind of interact, and you're collecting like different tokens, and these tokens, you get coins for them, and I think it's like whoever has the most coins wins. But it's a super fun game. I really love Libertalia. I really want to play it again, but it's a great game to play at 6, and it's not super complicated to learn, so I want to put that out there. My number 6 is Colt Express. Colt Express is an award-winning, this is a TLDR's winner, but it is so much fun. It's like a little cardboard train that you assemble, and then you have like little bags of loot, and then everybody's like a thief trying to jump onto the train and rob as much loot as they can. But the cool part is, in order to take loot, you have to play the cards to do that. So you have cards that let you move, cards that let you shoot, cards that let you punch, cards that let you, and then so, you know, punching is if somebody's in the cart with you, you can punch them. And if somebody is, you know, in a cart in front of you, you can shoot. And then whoever gets rid of like all their bullets like gets a bunch of points at the end, or coins or whatever. But it's just really, really cool because it's like the way that the game works is that everybody plays a card face up onto a pile, but you don't move yet, right? Like everybody plays a card first, then you take that, then you go to the next like turn, everybody plays another card, and it's like, this is what I'm going to be doing. But the thing is that there are times where you go through tunnels where you can't see anything, and it's like you're in a tunnel this round, so you have to put the card face down. And so then you put a face down card on the deck, and then you're like, I don't know what just happened, I don't know where everybody went. I know that this person was going up and I'm going to the right, and I'm gonna punch this person. Oh wait, it's dark, they may not even be in the car, and then that's gonna be a wasted turn. And then once all the cards have been played, then you act out the scene by playing the cards from the deck one at a time, and then you do your actions then. And then sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like you get so frazzled and so mixed up. You have your own like ability, and it's so funny, man, like what happens when you start playing the cards out and everybody's taking their turns and making their moves, and they're like, oh my gosh, how did I got put onto the roof and the loot is on the bottom and you're on like the second level of the train. It's so much fun. I love Colt Express. Definitely a game I think everybody should like have a copy of it just for fun. Number 5 is King of Tokyo. And while I'm at it, you're already halfway through the video, so why don't you go ahead and hit that like, subscribe button if you haven't already done that, and let's get on with the rest of this. Number 5 is King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo is great, man. You just chuck dice and beat each other up and try to get the most points. You can win one of two ways: by either gaining 20 points or by eliminating all of your opponents, which again, it has player elimination, but the game is not that long that it would feel bad. But it's King of Tokyo. It's just classic dice rolling game, and it's a King of the Hill style game. So when you roll the dice and you hit somebody, you get to enter into Tokyo at the end of your turn. And when you enter into Tokyo, you gain a point. And if you stay in Tokyo till your next turn, you get 2 points. So it's a cool way to like accumulate points. And also when you roll dice, if you can get 3 of the same number, you score that many points. So it's like, if I can get 3 1s, I'll get 1 point. If I get 3 2s, I'll get 2 points. If I get 3 3s, 3 points. And man, I love King of Tokyo. I just don't think this game ever misses. I think it's fantastic. I think you can get tired of it eventually. I think there's a lot of people who have probably been like, I'm tired of that game, and that's kind of like a party game. Not really. I think it's a solid game. It's a little lighter, but it's really, really fun. I love King of Tokyo. That's why it's my number 5. Number 4, Dodos riding Dinosaurs. This game is really group dependent, man, because if you have a really competitive group that gets mad a lot when you play, don't play Dodos riding Dinosaurs. It'll end friendships. But if you have a group of people who are mature and know how to play a game and know that it's just a game, then this game is for you guys. And if you just love like randomness, like Mario Kart, and that's the thing with like Mario Kart, there's definitely some skill involved, but at the end of the day, somebody can hit you. You can get hit by like 2 blue turtle shells and then a red shell and end up in last place. Like it can happen. And so knowing that Mario Kart can be kind of random, that's how this game is. It's like Mario Kart as a board game, but everybody plays as like a little dinosaur with a dodo riding on top of it. And you each get like a little hand of cards, and then you play cards, and the cards have numbers on it and tells you how many spaces you move forward. The cool mechanic I think I like in this game is that there's like a mechanic where all the cards are blue and they're like normal cards, and there's some cards that are red. Red are like these extreme cards that like move you forward a lot of spaces. Some of them are like crazy, the amount of spaces it can move you forward. The problem is that if you play a red card and somebody else plays a red card, then the ability doesn't activate, and then you just get the number of that's on it. But like the way that these things move forward, it's like move forward 2 spaces and then roll a die twice, and then all the numbers that you get, that's how many spaces you move forward. But the problem is that that's the ability part of it. So if somebody else plays a red card, it cancels the ability of rolling the die, which is where most of your movement is, and you just get the 2 movement, which stinks. So you might end up just going 1-2. All right, that was it for my turn. But yeah, you can play mind games with that and tell people like, oh, it's like, don't play red, guys, I'm playing red. Don't, and everybody's just freaking out because they don't know who's playing red. There's counter cards, these green cards that allow you to counter the abilities of other cards, or they allow you to add extra steps to your cards or modifiers. Some really fun stuff in this game. And the game comes with a bunch of like little wooden tokens that there's like a log that you have to like roll it from your hand, and if you hit somebody it knocks them back. When you take damage, you get rid of cards from your hand, and if you lose all the cards in your hand, you basically like have to not restart, but you have to go back a few steps and then draw a new hand because your life is like the cards in your hand. So it's really, really fun. There's cards that make everybody switch hands, and it's like, no, my cards. It's fun. You could throw like a feather at, like, you toss a feather, and if it lands and hits somebody, they go back a few spaces, or you switch places with them. So somebody in last place can like throw a feather, hit somebody, and then go, now I'm gonna switch places with you. Now you're in last, I'm in first. It's wild, it's crazy. It's Dodos riding dinosaurs. Amazing game. My number 3 is another racing game, which I had 3 racing games on here. We have Jamaica, we have Dodos, and we have Heat. Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Amazing racing game. If you've never heard of or have played this game, this is like the best racing game. And I know there's some really good ones out there like Flamme Rouge, Camel Up. There's great racing games. This happens to be my favorite of all of the racing games that I've played, but I just love the mechanics of this game, how the gear that you're in determines how many spaces you can move or how many cards you can play. So it's like I'm in like 3rd gear, so I can play 3 cards from my hand, each with a number value on it, and that's how many spaces you move forward. So when you shift into a lower gear, you play less cards, but it cools your engine down at the same time, because if you keep pushing your engine, you can end up spinning out of control, and you don't want that to happen. And then there's like the corners. That's where you spin out of control, is in the corners. Corners have like a speed limit, and so it's like you can't play cards past this value. So like the speed corner is like a 5. The cards you play have to equal 5 or less. Otherwise, if you go over that speed limit, then you have to discard like heat from your engine and stuff like that. And if you don't have any heat in your engine, these heat cards, then you can end up spinning out of control and going back behind the corner and having to redo the corner, and that's devastating to your turn. You could draft off people to move up a couple of spaces, but it's just a racing game. You go around 2 times. This is the type of racing game that you can play you can learn as you play. I feel like I've got the teach of this down so well that it goes by super easy. And we usually do like the first lap, and we're just still learning as we're playing the first lap. And then I'm like, all right, everybody got it. Second lap, you guys know what to do. And then it just picks up really fast. So there's also some stuff that it comes with, extra little modules where you could do like some like deck building aspects where you can like add engine cards and different stuff to your deck. There's like a Grand Prix mode. There's so much that comes with this game. Plus it's got expansions. Heat, Pedal to the Metal is amazing, and it plays with 6 people right out of the box, which is super cool. And I think the next expansion added like a 7th player. Number 2, Planet Unknown, my favorite polyomino game of all time. And this plays with 6 people, but it plays really well because everybody plays simultaneously. So there's like a little round, what is that called? A Lazy Susan that's in the center of the play table, and it has a bunch of like, it has like 2, each section of it has 2 tile reservoirs where you could pull tiles from, and so the captain of that turn gets to move the Lazy Susan and pick what they want, and then wherever the Lazy Susan lands, that's where the other pieces go to. It's like this one goes to that player, this one goes to that player, this one goes to that player. And so it's really cool because it's like you kind of, everybody chooses a tile at the same time, puts it on their board, and then once everybody's good, we move on. Cool part is that there's like, you have like objectives that you can do like personally, but there's like objectives that are like in between 2 players. So it's like I'm competing for these objectives between me and this player on my left and this player on my right. So these are the 2 objectives that I'm trying to, and I'm in a battle against these 2 guys. I don't have to worry about them. They're not going to interfere with our competition. But it's really cool because it spreads out the objectives, so everybody's kind of going for different things, but at the same time there's still competition. It's a really fun game, and the new Supermoon expansion just came out for it, which I have behind me over here, which is cool. It adds another layer to the fun. I love Planet Unknown. It's super, super good. And my number 1 game that plays with 6 people is Ethnos, and I have the Ethnos 2nd edition. I have the regular edition. Do I still have it? Did I sell it? I don't remember. There's a lot of hate going on for the second edition. I get the hate, but it didn't interfere with me. My opinion, because I think there's a little controversy on that, is which one's better, the original or the second? And there's people that swear, they're like, no, the original is so much better because of boom, boom, boom. I think the second is better because of boom, boom, boom. The only people that I've seen that have had a problem with the second edition are people who have played the first. I've played this game with new players, and they haven't had much of an issue learning it. I think that the symbology was kind of a step down because the cards used to just say what they do. I think that's a step down, but I feel like everything else was a step up. I feel like the components look better. I feel like the artwork is nicer, though I think for some it was confusing. For me, I didn't really find it confusing. I found that the corner edge tells you what color they are, and then the symbol on the right tells you what faction they are. You got both things. I think the original game, you had like it's like, okay, this is purple because the whole card was purple. But for me, I thought that was a really ugly choice. You know, he's got all these purple and green and orange cards. It just looked gross. I don't like that. And I think the old artwork was really nice, but it was like that mythology, what is that called? Fantasy themed. And there's not a lot of people who enjoy all of that. But then there are people who don't enjoy anthropomorphic animals because they're sick of games like that. So I think it's just hit and miss. The old one is like ridiculously hard to find, and it's probably more expensive now that the second edition came out. But the second edition is really, really nice, and it's only like $30. So I think that it's a win because it makes the game more accessible, more cheap to play it. And yeah, usually Ethnos, you just got to get like a used version from somebody because that's one of the harder games to find. But anyways, that's my number one. Oh, what is that? Ethnos is a game where you're playing cards in bands, and you play either all the same faction or all of the same colored card. And if you can do that, then whichever card you place as your leader, because there's different factions that have different abilities, whoever the leader card is, the card in the very front of your stack that you played, gives you an ability, and you act that ability out, and then you get to place a little control marker on one of the areas of the map, and then whoever's controlling that by the end of the age, whoever has the most markers in that zone gets the points that are printed on that zone, which change from game to game. Factions change from game to game because the game comes with like 14 factions or something like that. It's insane, and you only play with like 6 of them, so there's so much variety in this game. And the game is really quick. Like on your turn, you either play a band of cards or you just draw a card. There's a market where you can draw them from face up, or you can draw a face down one off the deck. And then in the deck there's some dragon cards. When you draw your third dragon card, it ends the age, and then you score. And then after that, you play a second age, and then a third age, and then the game's over if you're playing a 3-player game. But this is not a 3-player game video, so don't worry about that. This is for 6 people. But yeah, Ethnos is fantastic, bro. Whether you get the old one or the new one, if you can find the old one cheap, get it. It's super easy, makes the game super approachable. If you're playing with people who are more gamers that are like not their first time playing, maybe the second edition they might like. But like I said, I think that I haven't really had any issues playing either of them. I think the only people who really complain about the second edition mostly has been people who have played the first. And it's kind of like, yeah, the first was so much easier, but it's like, yeah, but you know how to play already, right? I don't think it's that much easier. This game didn't make it harder to play. Maybe for people who have played the original and were used to the cards. But yeah, it's just iconography now, and I think that's the step down that it took, because I think the iconography can be confusing at times. But that in that way, it may be a step down. But I just think that it's a step up in basically every other place. So anyways, that is my top 6 player list. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and in the comment section let me know what's your favorite games that play with 6 people. And keep in mind that I am doing a list of plus now. The next list is going to be games that play with everything past 6 players. Okay, and that'll be my next video, so hopefully you guys tune into that one. But in the comment section, tell me your favorite 6-player games. And also, if you're interested in becoming a member, I have extra videos on my channel that you can watch where I, show you, like, I rank different games and do stuff like that. Check those videos out by becoming a member. It's only as cheap as $1 a month, or if you can afford more, you can do more. But just come support the channel. The more people that support the channel, the greater this channel is going to become. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for everything you've done for this channel. Love you guys. Have a good one.